everybody. How are you? Good, I hope. My name is Ginger, if you haven't been doing this with us yet. And this is Ruger. He's my faithful companion. Look at him. And we're going to go through a Bible study of Joshua chapter 20. Now, we've been going through the different territorial allotments that Joshua has handed down to the different 12 tribes of Israel. And this chapter is so interesting. It's short, but there's a lot to it. Now, way back in, I think it was, I wrote it down. I didn't do Numbers with you, but way back in the book of Numbers, the Lord instructed Moses about the cities of refuge that would be in the promised land, which they are now inhabiting. So we're going to talk about 6 cities of refuge, and these cities were very special. Among the different tribes, of course, we know Levi, they didn't inherit land per se in the way that the other tribes did, but they did inherit cities among the 12 tribal lands. And they inherited a bunch of cities. We'll read about them next time, but it's 48 cities. Well, 6 of those cities were cities of refuge, and there would be 3 on the east side and 3 on the west side. So I ordered a map from Amazon, a big Bible map, and I think it's similar to the ones I've been showing you. But anyway, I wanted to hang it on the wall so I could actually point out things too. But anyway, it hasn't arrived yet. But anyway, there were 6 cities, and they were Kadesh, Shechem, Hebron, Golan, Ramoth, and Bezer. And there were 3 on the west side of the Jordan, and then 3 on the east side of the Jordan. Because remember, 3 of the tribes did not enter over to the other side of the Jordan. So anyway, these cities of refuge were places where people could go if they had accidentally killed someone or killed someone without premeditation. So in this system back then, of course, they didn't have police, so they had what was called they called them a avenger of blood, but the Hebrew word is goel, Goel, and it's an avenger of blood, and it was a family member who would seek justice for someone who had been killed among their family. So that avenger of blood would kill the person who committed the offense, unless that person could escape to a city of refuge. And there were cities of refuge, like I said, 3 on the west side, 3 on the east side. Israel is a tiny country. It's not as big as Colorado, not even close. So you were always close to a city of refuge, and it was important that you could get there if you had accidentally killed someone or killed someone without premeditation. The elders of the city would determine if you should be able to stay there or not, whether they found you guilty or not. It was not for the guilty. It was for the people who were not guilty, who did not kill with premeditation or intent. So they would be able to stay there, have some kind of trial that the Levites would perform, and if they were found guilty, they would be given back to the avenger of blood, and he could kill them. It was like the law was like an eye for an eye. It was like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth type thing. So anyway, but they could stay there if they were not guilty, and they would be protected from the avenger of blood. They would not be released to him. They would have to stay there, though, because if the person left, he or she would be killed by the avenger of blood. So they were released, like if the high priest of the time died, they were released, and the avenger of blood could not touch them. So this is super fascinating. Let me just go ahead and read it, and we'll talk about it more. So 6 cities of refuge. You could get out your map. I did get out my map, and I found them. like, oh, I hate to do this, but I just want better maps. Have you guys sensed that? I just want better maps. But anyway, like for example, let me see if I can find a better one. Like some of them, Kadesh. Well, here's one of the cities of blood right here. It's Shechem, and it's in the tribal land of West Manasseh. There's also there's Kadesh right up here. That's one of the cities of refuge. Hebron is way down here somewhere. Hebron. I'm sure. I think I've been there, but I'm not seeing it right away. I don't want to spend a lot of time searching for these on my map. Golan is way up here. I've been to Golan. It's way up here. It's, on the east side of the Jordan where they didn't enter. So that's Golan. I've been up there. Ramoth. I don't know where Ramoth is. I'd have to think about it. And then Bazir. So anyway, there's 3 on this side, and there's 3 on this side. And I listened to the Calvary Chapel preacher from South Denver, and he had a great map with just those cities of refuge pointed out, which I loved. I need maps. Maps are they're becoming more important to me every day. But let me read this to you. 6 cities of refuge. Now, remember, this was commanded by the Lord to do way back in Numbers. I thought I had written it down, the chapter, but I obviously, Numbers 35. I don't want to read it to you. You can go back and read it on your own. But the Lord had commanded them to do this before they ever entered the promised land. Then the Lord spoke to Joshua, saying, "Speak to the sons of Israel, saying, designate the cities of refuge of which I spoke to you through Moses, that the manslayer who kills any person unintentionally without premeditation may flee there, and they shall become your refuge from the avenger of blood. He shall flee to one of these cities, and shall stand at the entrance of the gate of the city, and state his case in the hearing of the elders of that city. And they shall take him into the city to them, and give him a place, so that they may dwell among them. Now if the avenger of blood pursues him, and they shall not deliver the manslayer into his hand, because he struck his neighbor without premeditation and did not hate him beforehand, he shall dwell in that city until he stands before the congregation for judgment, until the death of the one who is high priest in those days. Then the manslayer shall return to his own city and to his own house, to the city from which he fled." So once the high priest at the time would die, he could go back. The manslayer could go back to his own home, and the avenger of blood could not touch him. Yeah, there's more tradition. Skip Hitzig from Albuquerque Calvary Chapel, he talks about, there's a short lesson, you could Google it. He talks about it, and it's pretty fascinating. And I realize I'm filming this with my iPad. I wrote down a bunch of other stuff. I took pictures of articles I read, and I wanted to read them to you, but I put them on this iPad, so I'm probably not going to be able to do that. But anyway, where am I at? So they set apart, this is going to list the cities. So they set apart Kadesh in Galilee, in the hill country of Naphtali, and Shechem in the hill country of Ephraim, and Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, in the hill country of Judah. Beyond the Jordan, east of Jericho, they designated Bezir in the wilderness on the plain from the tribe of Reuben, and Ramoth and Gilead from the tribe of Gad, and Golan and Bashan from the tribe of Manasseh. These were the appointed cities for all the sons of Israel, and for the stranger who sojourns among them, that whoever kills any person unintentionally may flee there, and not die by the hand of the avenger of blood until he stands before the congregation. So if they find him guilty, it was an eye for an eye. That was the law. So, and that was, the law given by God earlier. And so, they could be handed over to the avenger of blood, or If not, they could stay in the city of refuge until the high priest died, and then they could leave. But they would be protected there in the city of refuge. They could dwell there. So it's fascinating because it's all a picture of Jesus. So everything in the Old Testament is a picture of Jesus. It all points to him. That's why I like to study it. When I taught my little students at the Christian school, I'd always teach Old Testament because it would point to Jesus. If they were familiar with that, they knew why they needed Jesus. But, you know, a lot of believers like to study the New Testament first. And when I was a young believer as a kid, I studied the New Testament first. But I cherish the Old Testament because it points towards Jesus. So the way it points to Jesus is in many ways. So, for example, these cities of refuge, because Israel is a small country, these cities of refuge were close by. And there was always a clear path to them. They would put out signs so that, and there couldn't be any hindrance to getting there. There had to be clear paths like roads and things and signs to show you clearly how to get there, that you could get there fairly quickly regardless of where you lived. And like with Jesus, he's always available. He's always there. There is no hindrance. Now that he has died and risen again, there's no hindrance. People can go straight to him, and they can go straight there. They don't have to go through any human high priest. Jesus has become the high priest. So, and the high priest's death allows, Jesus the high priest, his death allows freedom too. Like when the high priest at the time would die, the avenger, or that the manslayer could be set free and go home. So at the death of Jesus, we can be set free and go home. Now the Goel, he was also called the kinsman redeemer, and there's more to it than that. Jesus is our kinsman redeemer. Let's see. What else did I want to share with you? Yeah, the pastor from I'm having issues. I'm trying to remember. Oh, Calvary Chapel. It was him in Denver. He was talking about the names of the cities. Kadesh means righteousness and holiness. Jesus is our righteousness and our holiness. Shechem means shoulder and strength. Hebron means fellowship, having fellowship one with another and fellowship with Jesus. Golan means exile or happiness, like escaping exile. Ramoth Gilead means heights, and then Bezer means fortress or strength, like Jesus is our fortress and strength. I really want to stop for a minute and join these two videos together because I want to look at the article. I want to read part of that to you that I took a picture of on my iPad. So I will join these two videos. I'll be right back. I'm back. Ruger's back too. I'm going to read to you just a little bit from this article that I got. It was a good one. And this was from enduringword.com. And you can just, it's just a commentary. So you can punch in, if you go there, you can punch in Joshua chapter 20 and read some of this. Okay, so one of the points in this article, it's kind of repetitive, but let me read it to you. The subtitle here is Freedom for the Slayer, the Killer. And he shall dwell in that city, the city of refuge, until he stands before the congregation for judgment, and until the death of the one who is the high priest in those days. Then the slayer may return and come to his own city and his own house, to the city from which he fled. He shall dwell in that city until he stands before the congregation for judgment, and until the death of the one who is high priest in those days. To be protected against the avenger of blood, the slayer had to stay within the walls of the city of refuge until his case was fully heard by the proper authorities, and until the death of the standing high priest. Then the slayer may return and come to his own city. After being declared innocent of murder by proper authorities, and after the death of the standing high priest, the slayer could go back to his home and be protected against the wrath of the avenger of blood. There was another point I thought of while reading this. Like for us, if we leave the walls of Jesus Christ, like if we were to leave Jesus Christ, we would no longer be protected. We have to stay within the faith of Jesus, our faith in Jesus Christ. Okay, and now this other point in here, it says the cities of refuge as a picture of Jesus. The Bible applies this picture of the city of refuge to the believer, finding refuge in God on more than one occasion. Like in Psalm 46:1, it says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. More than 15 other times, the Psalms speak of God as our refuge. So he is our refuge. Okay. Hebrews 6:18, that by two immutable things in which it is possible for God to lie, we might have strong consolation who have fled for refuge and lay hold of the hope set before us. So we flee to Jesus Christ to find our refuge. Both Jesus and the cities of refuge are within easy reach of the needy person. They are of no use unless someone could get to the place of refuge. And these cities of refuge, like I said, clearly marked. Some of them were on a hill, I think, but they had signs. They had roads that were unimpeded where you could easily get there. And remember when Jesus died and that curtain in the temple tore from top to bottom, the curtain blocking people from the Holy of Holies where God would meet the high priest? That was torn down, meaning we could easily get to God through Jesus Christ alone, him being the high priest. Now, this was interesting. It wasn't just the Hebrews that the cities of refuge were for. It was even for foreigners dwelling in the land. So anybody, and that's true with Jesus, anybody, anywhere can go straight to Jesus through faith. Both Jesus and the cities of refuge become a place where the one in need can live. You didn't come to a city of refuge in time of need just to look around. Both Jesus and the cities of refuge are open to all, not just the Israelite. No one needs to fear that they would be turned away from their place of refuge in their time of need. The Bible teaches that Jesus will turn no one away who comes to him. Both Jesus and the cities of refuge are the only alternative for the one in need. Without this specific protection, they would be destroyed, and that's true. If they couldn't make it to the city of refuge, they would be killed by the avenger. And the same with us. If we didn't have Jesus, we would perish in hell. Only through faith in him can we enter heaven and eternal life. Both Jesus and the cities of refuge provide protection only within their boundaries. To go outside them means death. Okay, so let's see here. With both Jesus and the cities of refuge, full freedom comes with the death of the high priest. Jesus being the high priest, when he died, set people free from sin through faith. Now, there's one distinction, and it reads it here, and this is a crucial one. It says, a crucial distinction between the cities of refuge and our refuge in Jesus is that the cities of refuge only helped the innocent, but the guilty can come to Jesus and find refuge. Like some people even said, who were talking about that I listened to, they were saying how in the refuge of Jesus, only the guilty can find refuge. Whereas, like, you have to admit you're guilty to receive salvation through Jesus. Whereas, like in the Old Testament, only the innocent could find refuge in the cities of refuge. Now, Jesus, through his blood, declares us innocent. So, in a sense, those who have faith are innocent because he no longer sees their sin. anyway, this whole chapter points to Jesus. Now, next time we're going to talk about the 48 cities of the Levites. I'll probably have my online friend or my audiobook read it to you again, because again, it goes through all these cities of the Levites. You'll want to get your map out. But and then after that, we only have 3 more chapters. We have 4 more chapters after today, and we'll finish this up, and I'll probably do a few more Bible studies before school gets out, because I usually end whatever I'm doing when school gets out. But anyway, let's take it one step at a time and see what we want to do. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day, so have a great Valentine's Day, and I'll probably post it tomorrow. Have a good one.